I know that there are a lot of teachers who don't do this, and I hope by the end of this episode, I'll have convinced at least one of you that it is so worth it to make this change in your studio. I am talking about having a studio management software for scheduling and billing. Now, I know a lot of you already use My Music Staff or another software, but if you aren't, I can already hear you saying it's too expensive. I'd rather just do it myself. It doesn't really take that long. And a big one that I hear, I don't want to pay the processing fees. If this is you, I encourage you to actually do the math and sit with the numbers for a bit.
Hey there, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place.
Hi there, piano teachers. I hope that you are doing well today. We here in the US are in the middle of summer, which means things look a little different than during the school year. So for me, things are a little slower in the conservatory that I run, and I don't have quite as many obligations. I have a little bit more time to spend with my family at the pool or playing tennis or whatever. And actually, on the day that this episode is coming out, I'll be meeting up with some of you at our very first Top Music Local coffee meetup. We're meeting at a coffee shop in Orange County, California, and I'm so excited, looking forward to it, and I'll report back hopefully next week on how it went. Today, I have a big question for you. What is one thing in your studio that if you changed it, figured it out, or got it under control, would make everything else feel easier and lighter? Now, I'm not talking about adding more games or trying a new method book. Today's episode is more about the business side of your teaching studio. So, thinking about the business side, what's that one thing that makes you cringe, gives you the ick, however you want to say it, when you think about it? Maybe it's that your policies aren't clear or that you have a hard time enforcing them. I know I have that problem sometimes. Maybe you wish that you had the courage to raise your rates. Maybe you've told yourself the story that you are bad with money, and so you don't keep good records and don't really know where the money goes each month. We're going to talk about a few of these today, and then if you need more help, don't worry, we've got some resources for you at the end of the show. I want to start by telling you that I am actually not a super organized person. People think that I love my systems, which I do to a certain extent, but they don't come naturally to me. I have to make a concentrated effort to put systems in place. But let me tell you, once I have the system in place, I am so much happier, and I love how smoothly things can run once the system is going and doing its job properly. This summer, I told you that things are a little bit slower, so I'm trying to use some of that space to get better systems set up for myself in the conservatory so that when things get crazy in August, as they always do, I'll have set myself up for success. I was talking to some of my piano teacher friends a couple days ago, and I told them that I'm really trying to be a better helper to myself in my job. I don't have a dedicated administrative assistant, so I'm hoping this summer to get things running so that it feels like I have an assistant, but it's really just past me helping out future me. And if you're wondering what in the world that means or looks like, I'll give you a couple of examples. One of the big projects that I'm working on that I should have started years ago is I'm creating a big document in Google Drive that is going to have all of my SOPs, which are standard operating procedures. So think about the tasks that you do over and over, or maybe you do them once a year or every few months. An example would be every time we have a recital, I have a Google sign-up sheet where the students sign up. I make a flyer in Canva that I hang up around the conservatory. I have emails that I always send to my teaching staff and to the families about the recital. I order snacks. I make the programs. These are all tasks that are maybe slightly different each time, but I've done them over and over, and they look very similar each time that I do them. But every time they come around, I go searching for the sign-up sheet that I used last time so I can tweak it. I wonder how many cookies I ordered last time, where the program template is that I used last time. So my plan, my hope, is to take all of those things that are in various places on my computer where I have to go searching for them and put links to everything in this one large document so I don't waste time and mental energy going to search for things every time. I'm just getting started on this, so I'll have to check back in with you and let you know how it turns out. And honestly, I have a feeling that I'm going to be updating it and working on it for a full year as I go through various tasks that come around each year and remember things that I need to add to the document. Right now, as I'm starting it, I have it organized by months, but it's possible that that's going to change. That just seems like the way that makes the best sense in my brain. Another thing that I want to do in the next couple of months is make a video that explains our tuition structure and makeup policies. Now, I have a document with our policies in it. I think I mentioned in an episode not too long ago about our welcome packet that every student gets, and it has our policies in it. And when parents register for lessons, they have to check a box saying that they agree to the policies. But guess what? I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that they actually have no idea what our policies are. And so they're often asking about makeup lessons and why they're paying the same amount when the month only has 3 lessons that they paid when they got 4 lessons. It's interesting. I've noticed that they never ask why they're paying the same amount if the month has 5 weeks in it. They don't seem to notice that. So I was inspired by a video on YouTube that Tim has actually referenced in the past about makeup lessons. I'll find it and put it in the show notes if you want to check it out. It's a teacher explaining why it doesn't make good business sense and really isn't even good for our mental health as teachers to always be catering to every student's makeup lesson whims. The video is great, but it really explains it more in terms of a private music teacher. So I want to take the ideas from the video and translate to our specific situation and explain why we can't do makeup lessons, and also talk about the monthly tuition and all the benefits that are included in the tuition beyond just the weekly lessons. And then when parents email me about makeup lessons, rather than just pointing them to the policies or saying we don't do it, I can share the video with them, and hopefully the video will have a positive tone to it rather than feeling like a list of rules that nobody reads. So that's how I'm planning to make that pain point in the conservatory less painful and help out my future self. The next thing is something that we already do in the conservatory, but I have to talk about it, and I should probably warn you that I get pretty fired up about this one. I know that there are a lot of teachers who don't do this, and I hope by the end of this episode, I'll have convinced at least one of you that it is so worth it to make this change in your studio. I am talking about having a studio management software for scheduling and billing. Now, I know a lot of you already use my music staff or another software, but if you aren't, I can already hear you saying it's too expensive. I'd rather just do it myself. It doesn't really take that long. And a big one that I hear, I don't want to pay the processing fees. If this is you, I encourage you to actually do the math and sit with the numbers for a bit. I just looked. My music staff is around $17 a month plus some transaction fees. Fonz is the one that I use, and it's around $20 a month for a single teacher plus some processing fees. Now, how much are you getting paid per hour to teach? Let's just say you get $60 an hour for teaching. If you're spending more than 20 minutes a month on creating invoices, chasing down payments, maybe you're taking checks to the bank or depositing checks into your account, that $20 a month is going to be so worth it. And here's the other thing. This is where I get fired up. I have talked to well-educated professional music teachers who have left thousands of dollars on the table because they don't have good systems in place. I mean, this makes me crazy. I was having a conversation with 2 teachers who weren't using any kind of studio management software, and they both shared that they had hundreds, if not thousands of dollars outstanding. Not because the families didn't want to pay them or were trying to avoid it. They just didn't have a system. And so they hadn't gotten around to sending the invoices, or they hadn't told the family how much they owed. Or maybe they had told the family, but the family hadn't gotten around to paying it yet. And there were no consequences or reminders in place. So here they were commiserating about how they needed to get this money from the families, but now it felt like too much to go and ask for several months of missed payments from months ago of lessons, and it was turning into kind of a crisis situation. This is what you have to avoid if you want to run a sustainable business. So beyond just that dollar per hour math, Fawn saves me so much hassle and so many headaches. I think with my music staff, you can choose to either do automatic payments or send invoices that the parent clicks on and pays. But with Fawn's, everything is automatic, which is one of the reasons I love it. So what that means is at the beginning of the school year, or whenever a student joins the conservatory, I set up their lessons in Fawn's. Their parent gets a request to set up either their credit card information or ACH, which means the payment would come directly from their bank, which means no credit card fees. And then on whatever date I choose, I have mine set up for the first of the month, the credit card or bank is automatically charged and the money arrives in our account. And Fawn's has different options too, so you don't have to do monthly billing. For summer, our students are actually paying per lesson to give them more flexibility, which there's pros and cons to that, but that's just what we decided for our situation. I've also done packages of lessons in the past where they buy a package of 4 lessons or 8 lessons, and then it ticks them down as they use them, and it will automatically buy another package when it's used up. So there's a lot of flexibility. But what I want you to hear is that it is hands-off, automatic, and in my opinion, so worth it. The only time there's an issue is if the credit card is declined for some reason. But in that case, Fawn's will automatically send an email letting them know that there was a problem and they need to take care of it. And then it will retry a few days later. If it still doesn't work, it'll send another email. I think it makes about 4 attempts. And then if it still isn't taken care of, then I might have to step in and send a personal email or contact the parent somehow to see what's up. But honestly, that rarely happens. And if it does happen, usually the parent just needs some instructions on how to change their credit card because they got a new card or something. All right, since I'm talking a lot about Fawn's, I should mention that they're actually in the middle of a rebrand and they're changing their name to Make Music. So if you are listening to this in a year or even a few months and go searching for fawns.com, you might not be able to find it because they are now becoming Make Music Studio, I believe is the new name. It's still the same company and the system isn't changing, just the name is changing. And by the way, this is not sponsored by Make Music, but I think because I just went looking at their pricing to make sure I told you the right thing, I just saw an ad pop up that you can get a full year for 50% off. So only $10 a month. So seriously, what are you waiting for? I paid $12 at Chick-fil-A a couple of days to get my son chicken strips and fries. We didn't even get a beverage. So $10 a month, I feel like, is nothing. All right, in case you still aren't convinced, I'll tell you a story from before I started working at the conservatory. So before COVID, I was working full-time as an accompanist and I didn't have any private students. But then when COVID happened, I lost my full-time accompanying job and there weren't really any gigs happening. And a couple of my neighbors asked if I would teach their kids piano. So I took on 2 boys as private piano students. And even with only 2 students, I decided to sign up for my music staff. Now, you might be thinking that wasn't a very wise business or financial decision with only 2 students, but I actually stand by the decision for a couple of reasons. Because these students were my neighbors and I was friends with the parents, it made everything official and easy. It's kind of awkward to talk about money, and especially with your neighbors. I didn't want them handing me cash at the park or something. And one of the moms was actually an accountant, so she was on top of every cent that they were paying me. And I told you at the beginning of this episode that I'm not always the most organized person. So having the records online of exactly how many lessons we had done, what their charges should be, and how much they had paid me was really helpful. If she ever had a question, and sometimes she did, about the payments, we could just go back to the online records of everything. It made a clean distinction between the business and being neighbors who played at the park together. And then when I got the job as the director of the conservatory, there was never a question in my mind of whether we would take cash and checks or do automatic online payments. I think I've shared on here before, that was one of the very first things I did my first week of work at the conservatory was to research online scheduling and billing platforms. All right, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground today. In this short little episode, we've touched on policies, SOPs, billing. And remember at the beginning when I asked, what is the one thing that would make things run smoother and feel lighter in your studio? If any of these were on your list, or maybe there's another part of the business, such as marketing or something like that, your website, I don't know. I want to invite you to check out Top Music's 12-week studio transformation. This is a personalized program where you will get help working through the parts of your business that feel hard and are holding you back. The testimonials from the program, from people who've taken it in the past, are pretty incredible about teachers who have added many students to their studios, gotten the raise they'd been putting off, and much more. We'll put the link in the show notes so you can learn more about it. But if there are things in your business that you know could be better and create a more peaceful life for you, please check it out. I believe the applications are only open until the end of June, so don't wait on it. All right, that is all I have for today. Thank you for sticking with me to the end. Next week, I am planning to share about our coffee meetup. And I'm sure I'll be bursting with ideas and thoughts and excitement after meeting with some local teachers. So I hope you'll join me right here again next week. I'm Rachel Ehring, and this is the Top Music Piano Podcast. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you again next week.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support, and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.